Started already. So hello everyone, we are here again. So I think last week we did not do anything because something came up on Friday. So we are sorry for that. But we'll basically be doing what we have to do on Friday here today with us. So we learned about Tailwind this I think last week. We learned about Tailwind and basically how Tailwind helps us to uh, work better. That's the writing our web projects basically. So Tailwind is actually a class, or let's say class utility CSS framework that we use to like make our work faster by writing CSS file in shorthand. So shorthand in the sense that you're not going to be writing that you write it in normal CSS. You're just going to be writing maybe like short names that denote what you want in CSS. That's what you do with Tailwind. So we learned how to install our Tailwind projects last class. So we talked about the Tailwind CLI and also what's the second one? Tailwind, that's the CDN. So we use Tailwind for different projects, not just HTML CSS. We use them to write React projects as well when we are working. So it helps too. So we will just continue with our class. Today we are going to be learning um, CSS. I mean, Tailwind CSS basic utility classes, layout and spacing. Utility classes, layout and spacing. That's what we'll be learning in today's class. So Tailwind is basically not something that is very hard. As long as you are very familiar with your CSS code, then you'll not have issues with it at all. You'll not have issues with it at all. So, Mbolu, welcome. So you'll not have issues with it at all. So, uh, we know we have different properties in CSS, and one of the properties that we learned in CSS first is basically the text property. So another thing that comes using Tailwind, basically we have different places to practice. That's what we call the Tailwind play. Tailwind play is like what Tailwind created for you to practice different Tailwind properties and just know how it works basically. So this is what we're using for most of the time. So it just basically shows you what you type, the result of how it's going to be like. So let me remove this default code. We are going to be seeing the output in this side. So we have Tailwind play. If you want to go to Tailwind play, just basically search for Tailwind play. So you search for Tailwind play. Tailwind play. And you see this first link. You click on it. Then the Tailwind playground comes up. For you. So you basically just remove this. Then this one comes up. So you can always tweak it. Then you write your CSS codes in here. So this way I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using to like practice all the CSS properties or the Tailwind properties that we're going to be using today. Another thing that comes with using Tailwind is that whatever Tailwind code you write here, it basically brings out the CSS format for it inside this generated CSS utilities. Actually, we're going to see everything under this utilities part. So in this utilities part, whatever CSS code you have written, Tailwind code you have written, the CSS format is going to be showing here, so you have more understanding of it basically happening behind the scenes. So that's basically it. So the first thing we are going to learn, another for reminder, we are doing basic utility classes, layout and spacing. So we have first thing, basic utility classes, that the basic things that we are learning. So we have text colors, background colors, then spacing. That's the first thing we are talking about. So normally in CSS, if you were to write change the color of a text, you basically just write. You basically select the HTML. Maybe you have an H1 tag. You select the H1 tag there, put the color property and give it a value. That's what you do. But normally in Tailwind, you don't need to go through all those steps. So you just basically write H1 like this. Then inside your H1 tag, you put your class attributes. Then you write the style for that H1. Let's say we have welcome to Tailwind as text. Welcome to Tailwind as a text. Let's see. Sorry for that. So we have this here. So if you want to style it, you can see as I'm typing, it automatically just brings out the results for in this right hand side or left hand side, depending on where you're watching. So basically write your styling inside this class. So we are talking about text colors, right? So you just text, then you write the color of the text you want. Let's say you want it to be yellow. You say yellow like this. You can see as the emit, that's what it's called, is bringing out possible properties that you want to type. So you can see yellow. Then in Tailwind, you have to specify the color and the thickness of the color you want to display. That's one of the things you should put. You have already specified, okay, it's yellow color I want, but you have to say, okay, how thick should the yellow color be? So you now put it yellow, then you now put how thick it will be. With 50 is light, but the thickness goes like that. So let's say 500. Then that particular text, you can see it's still there, but it does not come. It leaves it in the color shown. So that's one of the properties that comes with payment. So that's how we do. That's how we do color. Then we have our background color. Background color is also there. So background color is the same thing. So just put BG. So background is like the short form of BG. So write BG there. So add BG blue 500. So write it there as well. BG blue 500. So you have the blue BG. So it's only black and white that don't have like intensity or how thick the color should be. So if I wanted the black color, I can just say BG black like that. Then everything turns black in that particular place. Waiting for it to come up here. Turns black. Welcome to Tailwind is black. Then next thing we talk about spacings. So spacing is margin and padding. I've learned spacings before, multiple classes. So let's say we want to add a padding to this particular background that will be in this H1. You know, padding is like the space between the edge of your screen and the contents of that particular container or box. So in this case now, this H1 is like the container of this text that we have here. So if you want this welcome to Tailwind not to touch the edge, we want a spacing between the edge. That is at the padding there. And to use padding, you don't need to write padding, just write P, then you now specify how much you want the P to be, maybe 10 or 20, like that, like that. So you do 10, basically increases it. So this 10. So we have certain sizes that come with Tailwind, but you can also write your own custom style size. So let's say you want to put it in PX by force. You just remove this and put your square bracket like this. You are using square bracket, not polygon. Then you write the size. Just say you want 50 px of padding. You just put 50 px in this format. So you see P 50 px, then it also comes out. So see the same thing by writing your style straight or putting like if you want the custom size. If you don't want the size that already comes. And now this brings us back to the utility that I was talking before. You can see as I wrote utility. So anything I used is going to be written here. So you see BG black. So it's inside the class. You can say, okay, that means he wants the color to background color, then color black. I say P50. You see padding 50 px. I say color yellow 500. You change the color of the text to be color yellow 500. So this is how we write it in CSS. If we're to use CSS normally, this is how it's going to be written. But since we are using Tailwind, basically just help you convert your Tailwind code into what is CSS we understand. Then it's not going to give it to you and we give the result to you. So that's basically how Tailwind works. Everything you're writing is basically converted to CSS, then interpreted by your browser. So Tailwind is just basically helping you break the barrier of having to write your CSS code by yourself. So that's what's happening. So let's look at other properties that we have. Let's also add margin. Let's say we have two of these H1s. So add margin. Let me just copy this one down. So we can add the margin in between. So we add the margin to the first one. So just mark and maybe 10. So we said margin. I know margin, when you add margin, that means you're putting size space between that's the left and right, top and bottom. That's when you put M10. But if you want your margin to only affect top and bottom, you put MY. That's for top and bottom. So the margin is to affect the top and bottom. If you want to affect the left and right, put MX to affect the left and the right alone. So if you wanted it to affect only the bottom, you put MB. Then it's going to affect the bottom. If you want to affect only the top, you put MT. So margin top. If you want to affect either the left, if it's the left, that's your MS. M start. It's not M. So M starts, not M left or M right. M starts. Then if you want to affect the right, yes, ME. That's M end. Margin end. That's how it's done here. So MS for the left, M start for the right. I mean M end for the left. What am I saying? M start for the left, M end for the right, MT for the up, MB for the down. Then for top and bottom, MY, left and right, MX. Same goes to for padding. So if you wanted your padding to affect either top and bottom, left and right, up alone, down alone, you can just put P, T, PB, PX, PY, PE or PS. They work the same way. So that's basically all I have to say on that. Then we already talked about police padding. We already talked about the margin for all sides, that's M1. MX, that's horizontal margin, that's for left and right. MY vertical for top and bottom. So we have the same thing for P as well. So now let's go to width, height, and max width. So we have here width. This controls the size of elements using Tailwind. Controls the size of elements using Tailwind utilities. So we have width W equals to 1/2. That's W half. That's, normally in CSS, if you want to take something to be the full width of your screen, we can always use width 100%, right? But yeah, we don't need to do that. So if you wanted something to take half of the space that we have, we're basically just going to use W half. So let's create a simple div now. So just say dot container. So we want to start this one. So we are going to buy video. Let's give it the background. Let's say give it the value 100. Then let's put a simple text in it. URL. Then put the padding. Let's say put the padding of 10 or 5. So yeah, that's it. So now this is where we want to put the width for it. So normally, if you want the thing to take the full space out in that box, I just need to put W full like this. It's going to take the full space that is there, that's in the page. That's W full. But if you want to take half of the space that is available, we put W half. That's W1/2, like this. So it's going to merge that in to take the full, half of the space that is inside your browser. You can see how this one expands to take half of the space. So that's how we get this place. But let's note that when we have, we can also interpret W1/2 is also the same thing as 0.5, right? 1/2 is the same thing as 0.5. But even does not interpret them like that. If we put W equals 0.5, you are basically telling you that, okay, you want 0.5, possibly, I think it's going to convert that 0.5 to pixels and put it there. It's just very small. But fractions now is like fractions of the entire space that we have. So if I put 1/3 now, it's basically going to show quarter of the screen. 1/4 is quarter of the 1/4 is real life. It's going to take quarter of the screen. So I want us to know the differences. So when you're saying 1/2, you're telling it to take half of the entire space that is available. Saying full, it's taking the full width of the screen. When I say 1/3, that means 1/3 of the available space should be taken. That's what they are telling it. So we have understand that like that. Another thing we should note is height. So we can say height. We can also give a fixed width as well. Let's say maybe you want to give a fixed width, so just a W and put a certain width for it there. So let's say put 60. 60 is a width. So we say W60 now, it's going to take 60 width. Then you can also give it a custom size as well. I told you custom size is in padding, but you can still do the same thing. Just put your square bracket. Maybe you want it to take 200 px. You want to take 200 px of size. That's 200 px. So that's the same thing. Then for height, we have, you can put the fixed size, you can put h full, that's the full width. Then you can put h screen. So when you use h screen, that means they're telling you to use like the available height of that screen. That's what you want it to take. So you use the h screen. In this case now, it's going to span across from here to here. So you can see everything is now yellow. That means for the available size of that screen, you want it to take the whole page, that's the whole size that was there in the vertical axis. That's what I'm telling it. So another thing we should check. What do I do? Sorry. We also have max width. That's max width. That means the highest the size can be. That's what we have max width. So you can always say max width. That's max W. Yeah, you put the size for it. Maybe on 11. It's a max width 11. It's max width 11. We're just going to squeeze everything into 11. That means the highest the size can be is increase the this one. So this max width 60. So that's the best thing. So that's that and that. So this size can also be split into two. Or let's just split into breakpoints. Maybe say SM, LG, XL, like that. They are also sizes if you want to use them. So you can use, let's say you have sorry, let's say you want to give a width of XL, just say WXL. So when you say WXL is that's also a size. You can specify the size for you. Then you have make it extra large. How was I going to do? Maybe check here. Your utilities. This is WXL is it here? Container XL is it here? So that's what this is doing. So that's WXL. You can also do WSM. So that's the same W small. So this is WSM. You can do WLG, that's large. And WMD, that's medium. So depending on the size of screen that you have, always span and span of screens. So that's different. Then we have display utilities. Yep. Yeah. So display utilities are the same one we are doing before. So instead of having to write display flex and class, you just literally enter the appearance container and flex in the class. So like this one that we have in this example, we have two divs containing two different backgrounds. So that's two different boxes here. You can always come and tell it, okay, div flex is justified between. That means that then you have okay, these two contents are here. Display them flex. All we are telling to do. So it's basically going to put this one and this one beside each other and display them. And so that display, the available space is going to display between them. That way you can justify. So let's test that out as well. So let's remove this and put this here. So that's So we have not put display flex in this place. That's why it's like this. So let me remove this with MD that we have here. So I'll put flex like that. You can also put size here too. So you have item 1 and item 2. Then you can now put justify. When you justify this one, let's wait for the steps to go for. So you can see the space is between item 1 and item 2, and they are inside the parent tab. So that's just what happened. Guys, I hope you are following. I mean, I'm just following and Chidema. Are you following? I mean, I just did the video.
I'm following. I'm following.
Yeah. Chidema. So let's continue. So we have other this, we have grid, so it's just the same way. Just know we have the working CSS. Okay, these are the working CSS. Just apply them to the appropriate parts of the HTML block. You won't have any issues. So this is an example of grid. So in grid, we just basically, let's say we have three backgrounds. So we talked about grids, I think last week in our class. So instead of flex, you can also use grid. So the grid like this, then you specify how many columns you want your that's your content that of that particular container to view. So you can see grid pose 2. So it's a grid pose. So pose 2. That means these two boxes will be shared in that box. So it's a grid pose 2, and some of them is going to fill the same amount of space inside the box. That was it. Then you can always put a gap. So for gap, you just instead of gap like this, like pen. So we are going to have the space between them. Also, there's a small space between the two boxes. So that's what we did now. Then we can now add more. Let's say we want more boxes. So we're just going to have more boxes there. They are going to be like this. So that's basically what we just did. But we can also add grid post 2. That means you want the boxes to be shared in 3 rows. I mean 3 columns. You just put 3 to 3 like this. Then we have 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So as long as we have 3 columns, then your grid is not going to have issues. So no matter how many boxes are inside here, it's going to share them into 3 columns. That was going to do when you're using grid. We now talked about, we also have positioning as well. I don't think we talked about positioning CSS, but yeah, we can always check that out. Then positioning here is not really a big deal actually. Position is basically forcing a particular HTML container or box to a particular side or particular position in your screen. That we are telling position to be. So we have 3 properties of that comes with position. We have the relative, absolute, fixed, and the Z index. So let's look at this example here. Let's look at this example. So we have this example. So in this case now, we have to display an image of a badge. Because you don't know what the badge is like something that is maybe displaying. We see badges in maybe shopping website. Let's say we have Jumia. Yeah, I'll show you what the badge is now. So it is what the badge is. So I need to understand the next step. So we have this. You can see this minus 14% here at this top right. Yeah, that's the badge. So it was positioned to be over that particular image that is there, a particular tag. So that's the badges. Just position like this. So this position in different ways, just not only that, this position in different ways. So this position to do that. So let's look at this example. Let's copy this one and paste it. So in a case where we have an image, let's look for an image. Maybe, let me copy one image SRC. Maybe this we have image. And doesn't just understand what's actually happening there. So what's happening is that we have badge. So the badge, let's say the image is going to be taking this white space that's here. So let's say the image is showing in the background. This badge is just going to be at the top 0, left 0. When you see top 0, left 0, that means there should not be any space from the edge of the box to the top, and there should not be any space from the left side of the box to the So there's no space. That's why it says 0. If I put it 1 now, there's going to be a space of 1 between the elements that's here and the top side of the box. So if I change this one to 1, you can see that's going to move down a bit. You can see that I moved a little bit down. So you are putting a space of 1 between the top of the box and the actual content. So it happens the same thing for left as well. So when you want it to be at the top left, so you have to put top 0, left 0. So it's going to be exactly there. So we don't put this one here. I also put absolute. When you put absolute, that means you can tell that telling that background, that badge to be able to move to anywhere inside that relative container. That's what I tell you to do. So you can move anywhere inside the container. And this image now stays where it is. So that's basically what I'm telling you to do. Let me check if I did check emails again. Okay. Let's copy this. I'll paste it inside here. The image will show. But anyways, let's just put it like that. This Tailwind player, I don't think you can import images. I don't think you can import images. But anyways, let's just talk about now. So even in your project, maybe you are working in your VS Code, you can test it out. So it works. It works. So let's continue. Then we have responsive design basics. So this basically just the basics of how we do responsive design. In the beginning of the class, I told us that when you're working with Tailwind, responsive designs are always easier to do than Tailwind and CSS. So what we used to denote different screen sizes, not like Tailwind that we have with media code that we have to specify the size maybe at media with 760 px, at media with 1000 px. We don't have to do that here. It's already done for us. We just have to specify the size of screen we are studying for, then why the styling inside it. So this is an example here. So we're doing a simple example with this. With this, we are going to change the color of this text on different screens for us. So we'll see how it works. So let me remove all of this code. You can always pause if you are watching the play. So we have this this one. So we have BG red 500. That means that's like the normal styling of that particular text. But also turn to green on medium screen. That means if the screen is bigger, that is once it turn to 500. On large screen, want it to be yellow 500. So let's test it out. We want to reduce this now to a certain screen. You can see that it turns to green. Fancy. We want to increase the gain, turns to blue. So you cannot check light screen because of this thing does not permit you. But if you are going to check this now, I don't think you can check this. You cannot check it. But just leave it on there. Or let's check something. That screen is supposed to be, you can see at the point it became yellow. You can see yellow when it turned to 1042. That's yellow. So on different screens, you can basically just check the size of what you have in that particular box. But just know that if it does not meet the requirement of that screen, it's just going to fall back to the original styling that was there before. So we have the BG 500, SM, green, then MG, then LG. So this is not really, I just know that, okay, when you're styling for SM, you're styling for small screen, styling for MD, you're styling for medium screen, LG, you're styling for large screen. That's what's happening. And you can see the different screen sizes. If I like this one, that means I think, okay, you have your width should be greater than or equals to 40 rem. That means from 0 to 40 rem is small screen. For medium screen, it's from 48 rem. That's from 40 rem. You know you have already set for small screen, that's 40 rem. So from 40 rem to 48 rem is going to be medium screen. Then for large screen, now from that 48 rem to 64 rem, it's going to be large screen. So that's how we define it into break points for us. Instead of having to write those styles by ourselves or writing those values or figures by ourselves, we don't need to go to all those stress. What we need to do is just focus on writing what we want to write by denoting either we want to type small screen, big screen, or like that. So you just basically write everything once and for all inside your class attribute. So you don't have to go to stress at all. So it's not the color you can use it to do. And this color, I say just an example. But you can use to denote whatever style. If you want to use flex, use any color, maybe you want to change the font size in a particular, maybe you're on small screen or big size, anything you want to do, you can use it like that. Then we now have the mobile first approach. I think I've talked about this in series before that. Whenever we are styling, we should always start for the small screen first. Then we can always start our bigger screens later. That is what I think. I start for our bigger screens later. So we have all of this. Tailwind styles are applied by default to mobile. Then we add responsive glasses for larger screen. So we have this example with this now. So we say display flex, that's all these anchor patterns display flex, then flex code. That means they should be displayed in a column format. So when you say flex code, that means you're saying flex direction column. How do you remember flex direction column? They added SM, that's on small screen, it should not be a column, it should be flex row. That means you should replace direction a row. Then you should not change, you should not also do justify between. That means the space that we have should be split in between the in between the anchor tags. Then we have BG, then text, and also the padding. So we now put all of this inside here. So that will be the inside. So this is an example. So when we start this out to see how it comes out. So let's just quickly do this class activities together. Then we now discuss the homework we are going to do before our next stream. So here we have build a responsive two-column layout to flex box and view. To create a navbar that stacks vertically on mobile and display horizontally on desktop. I think this is not this is basically what we have up here. What we have up here. So we say they say it should stack vertically on mobile and display horizontally on desktop. So basically just remove this. So now then we'll have our anchor tag. So let me copy anchor tag screen. So we have this anchor tag. So let's start with now. So we have class. So because we flex like this, I've already flex for everything normally. So everything on is going to be flex. Let's put in BG. BG yellow. They say on small screen, you should be displaying on a column. So you say SM, there's a flex code like that. Then for big screen, that's large screen, You want that for desktop screen. I see desktop screen is large screen. So you say LG flex row like this. So that's basically it. So if you want to test it, I'll just click on this one then. You cannot press on it. Let's see if I reduce this. Okay, you can see it. So SM, this is like the size of most phones. That's 664. You can also do extra small. I think XS. I think XS is extra small like this. So you cannot type for that one. But this is the small screen. Then on bigger screen you should be displaying flex. So you can see. So that's basically what we just did now. So they are always in flex, but when it's a small screen, displays to be in a column, and on big screen, it displays to be in a row. Then the second one is a create two column content area. Then left column image, right column text content. Ensure proper spacing and responsiveness. So let's quickly do that one as well. So under this, let's create a two column section area. So let's say we have a section here and we want to use grid for them. So inside here, we have two content. So let's use a dot image. Then dot text. So let's say we want this grid to display them. So we say class. We say grid. Since we say two column content area, two column content area. So we're going to do page post two. Say two columns. So we say grid post two. And you can always add like also put a gap between them. And the gap then. And inside the first one, said so you can see that this one is staying in this side. Then if we added an image, the image is going to be seen on this left side that we're putting. But since we don't have an image, let's just leave it like that. So, but we understand what's going to be happening there if there were an image. Then put the image, then put like an alternative text there, image. So it's going to show. So you have image on this side, then this one on this side. So that's that. Ensure proper spacing. I've done that. So that, but we have not done the responsiveness. That means we have to specify here that okay, on large screen, specify them to be on big post two, but on small screen should be grid post one like this. So that when your distance is on big screen, it knows that okay, it wants it to be on two column, but on small screen, it wants them to be up and down. That's basically what we just did now. So I don't think it's basically a very hard to understand. It's a simple task to get. So nothing really hard. Yeah. So we've already done that. So now let's look at this assignment and also test it out so that later in our next basically do the correction before we move to another thing that we have to do again. And also one thing about Tailwind is that if you know your CSS very well, you don't have any issues following your Tailwind at all. So just basically get what you normally do in your CSS and basically just look for this Tailwind formats or Tailwind syntax to write in it. So you will not have any issues whatsoever. So what we have to do before the next stream, we basically create a responsive column card layout. Then requirement is that the card should start vertically on mobile. On larger screens, display three cards per row using image. And each card must have an image at the top, title, description, and button. So that's basically all for today. So do we have anything to say? before we conclude, guys. This class was rather fast, about 40 minutes, and we're already done talking about everything we have to talk about. But do you want to say anything? Or
No,
Chidima?
no, no.
Chidima, are you with us? Chidima is not here. Anyways, that's basically all for today. If you are joining, I think there's one person who wants to thank you what I agree on. You can always drop a comment to show us that you are with us. Drop a comment, maybe like or something. Or drop the viewer that is watching. So if there are no questions, I'm basically just make ourselves here to for one day, I guess. So we meet again. Bye for now. See you lots on Wednesday. Always comment on the email, on the tech am I saying on the video if you have anyways, normally we always put you on this platform for that's me, Bolu, Chidima, and Toby. But Toby is not with us today, so he commented now that we should give him a shout out. So yeah, shout out to Toby for joining on our YouTube platform. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We meet again on Wednesday. Bye.